China is a magnificent country with its unique traditions and picturesque landscapes. But within the Middle Kingdom, there are also quite eerie places, which I will tell you about in this video. Enjoy watching. China is home to a large number of houses and structures that are said to be inhabited by ghosts. Surprisingly, the country even has a special profession, ghost house testers. The task of these specialists is to check a building for the presence of spirits by spending at least 24 hours there. If such a profession exists in China, it means there are indeed many buildings in the country where spirits dwell. Perhaps the largest of them is the palace complex known as the Forbidden City, or Gugong. Gugong was built in 1420 and served as the residence of imperial power in China for almost 500 years. The Forbidden City is a complex with a highly intricate infrastructure. It consists of 90 palaces and inner courtyards, including 980 buildings and 8,724 rooms. However, the Forbidden City is not only known for its grandeur and impressive architecture. Many intrigues and even murders took place within these palaces. Much of what happened within the palace walls remained a mystery, and thus Gugong is shrouded in various legends. Today, the Forbidden City is open to visitors, and any tourist can explore this grand structure. But every day at 5 p.m., the gates of Gugong close. Why? According to urban legends, after sunset, palace spirits come out to roam the complex. Locals believe that real ghosts reside in Gugong. Witnesses tell stories of the spirits of imperial concubines and maidservants. Moreover, when the palace walls become wet from rain, sometimes you can see the shadows of girls dressed in Qing dynasty costumes on them. When this happens, you can also hear traditional Chinese music that sounds as if it is coming from far away. One of the most famous ghost encounters in Gugong occurred in 1983. One night, a man who didn't believe in the urban legends decided to test whether the palaces were truly haunted. To do so, he climbed over the palace walls and found himself inside. The next morning, he was found in a state of terrible fear. According to him, all night long, he was chased by ghostly girls holding lanterns. Of course, some people are skeptical of such stories, but the fact remains, over nearly 500 years, thousands of concubines were killed within the imperial residence. Unfortunately, this tradition persisted among Chinese emperors and only ended during the reign of the 9th emperor of the Ming dynasty. In the city of Nanjing, located in Jiangsu province, stands the memorial to the victims of the Nanjing Massacre, also known as the Nanjing Wall of Mourning. This memorial was established in the city in 1995. At that time, it listed 3,000 of the 200,000 people who perished during this horrifying incident. Each year, before the National Day of Remembrance, new names of victims are added to the wall. The Nanjing Massacre was carried out by the Japanese Army in 1937. Beginning on December 13th and continuing for the next 6 days, the invaders killed everyone in their path. The history of this bloody event began in August 1937, when the Japanese army entered Shanghai. They were unable to capture the city because the Chinese army put up a strong resistance. However, in mid-November, Shanghai was eventually taken with the help of naval bombardment. Although the Japanese army suffered heavy losses, this did not stop them from attacking Nanjing. As soon as Japanese troops entered Nanjing, they began searching for Chinese soldiers who might have disguised themselves as civilians. All men of conscription age were suspected if they had shoulder wear marks from backpacks, calluses on their feet, or scars on their faces. Anyone found with these signs was executed on the banks of the Yangtze River. Feeling a sense of impunity, the Japanese army descended into chaos. Japanese soldiers killed anyone who displeased them and committed atrocities against women, regardless of the victim's age. The largest mass killing occurred on December 18th. On that day alone, about 57,000 people were killed. This episode became one of the bloodiest and most brutal in the history of relations between China and Japan, primarily because most of the victims of the Nanjing Massacre were civilians. Why the Japanese army committed such actions remains a mystery. Historians speculate that it may have been driven by anger after the unsuccessful battle in Shanghai, where 1 in 4 Japanese soldiers was killed. However, as early as August 1937, the Japanese were demonstrating terrible inhumanity. A vivid example of this was a contest between 2 soldiers who bet on who could kill 100 people faster, using only swords. The results of this competition were published daily in Japanese newspapers. It is no surprise that the Nanjing Massacre became a tragedy for every citizen of China. These events will forever remain in the memory of the Chinese people, and the memorial will serve as a reminder of how horrific and merciless war can be. In 1974, a farmer named Yang Jifa, along with his 5 brothers, made one of the largest archaeological discoveries in the history of China. While digging a well near China's Mount Li, he found a statue, which he initially mistook for a sculpture of Buddha. He reported his find to archaeologists, who began excavations the very next day. Upon investigation, it turned out that the farmers had accidentally discovered not a Buddha statue, but the legendary Terracotta Army of Chinese Emperor Qin Shi Huang. This astonishing creation dates back to the period between 246 and 208 BC. The emperor's army consists of 8,000 figures of armed soldiers made from terracotta, as well as hundreds of chariots made from wood and bronze. Near this remarkable creation lies the tomb of Qin Shi Huang himself. Qin Shi Huang was a Chinese emperor who began his reign in 249 BC. He managed to put an end to the 200-year-long warring states period and create the first centralized Chinese state. Qin Shi Huang was a highly influential and respected figure, and the Terracotta Army, created to guard his tomb, serves as evidence of this. This work of art impresses with its beauty and attention to detail. Each of the 8,000 terracotta soldiers has unique facial features and their own weapon. Some hold spears, while others are equipped with crossbows and swords. Moreover, each soldier has a rank. The army includes both common soldiers and officers. The sizes of all the terracotta people and horses correspond to real-life dimensions. Historians believe that the mausoleum, covering an area of 59 square kilometers, was built over a span of 38 years. Around 700,000 workers and craftsmen were involved in the construction and the creation of the sculptures. Interestingly, scientists have not yet explored the tomb of the emperor himself, as they fear that it may contain numerous traps designed to protect the remains of Qin Shi Huang. In 2023, archaeologists made a rather unusual discovery. Near the capital of the ancient Shang State, they found an entire burial complex for wealthy individuals, close to which was a sacrificial site with the remains of humans and animals. The Shang State, also known as Shangyin, is the earliest known state formation in Chinese history. The state existed between 1600 and 1000 BC. Its capital was the city of Yin, or Yinshu. After the discovery of its ruins, the site was included in the UNESCO World Heritage List. Since the discovery of these ruins, large-scale excavations have been conducted in the area. Numerous artifacts have been found that have shed light on the little-studied dynasty. However, some customs of the Shangyin people remained unknown, and the new tombs helped fill the gaps in their history. The tombs were discovered about 4.5 kilometers outside of Yinshu. Among the 28 tombs, 3 particularly large ones are shaped like the Chinese character Zhong, which can be translated as loyal. Scholars believe these tombs belonged to high-ranking individuals. Around the tombs, sacrificial pits were also found. Initially, archaeologists discovered the remains of horses and other animals inside them, but later it became clear that humans were also buried at this site. This indicated that sacrifices in the Shangyin state involved not only animals but also humans. This grim discovery provided researchers with new information about the funeral rites of ancient Chinese people. However, it remains unknown for what purposes these rituals were performed. In addition to this burial site, archaeologists also discovered another cemetery within the ancient city, also intended for wealthy individuals. It consists of tunnels with numerous graves, as well as sacrificial sites. This find is also of great value for further study of the history of ancient China. The Temple of White Clouds, located in Beijing, is the largest Taoist temple in China. Taoism is the only religion that originated in China itself. Its foundation lies in the doctrines of the famous philosopher Luyue, which were written over 1,800 years ago. The most well-known symbol of Taoism is yin and yang, representing the balance of opposites. This religion is essentially a philosophy of harmony and tranquility, encouraging people to follow the destiny given to them. The main deities in this religion are the gods of water, heaven, and earth, though Taoism features an incredible multitude of other deities. The main Taoist temple, the Temple of White Clouds, was built during the reign of Emperor Xuanzong of the Tang dynasty in 741. Originally, this sanctuary was called the Temple of Heavenly Eternity. During the Song dynasty, the temple was renamed the Palace of Taiji, and it wasn't until the 1440s that it received its current name. The temple looked very different in the past, as it was destroyed and rebuilt several times. The first major incident occurred in 1202, when the temple was almost completely destroyed by fire. No casualties from the fire are mentioned in historical records, but some residents of Beijing claim that the temple is haunted by the ghosts of monks who died during the incident. The spirits of the monks cause no disturbances, as in life they sought only peace and harmony. Whether this story about the ghosts is true is of course unknown, and the current monks say nothing on the matter. The Temple of White Clouds is a popular tourist attraction, especially among those who practice Buddhism in other countries. Its total area is about 60,000 square meters, with buildings covering 10,000 square meters. The temple includes western, eastern, and central zones as well as a rear garden. There are 19 halls and pavilions on its grounds. About 30 monks live at the temple, easily recognizable by their distinctive clothing and hairstyles. The Altai Mountains are located at the border of 4 countries: Russia, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, and China. In China, this mountain range stretches across the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. These lands possess breathtaking beauty, featuring landscapes with snow-capped peaks, rugged cliffs, gorges filled with dense forests, vast valleys, and numerous rivers. All of this attracts a huge number of tourists, but perhaps the main attraction of the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region is Canis Lake, located within the eponymous geopark at an elevation of 1,340 meters above sea level. This freshwater lake covers an area of more than 44 square kilometers with a maximum depth of 188.5 meters. Canis Lake is famous for its ability to change color. Depending on the time, it can appear sky blue, emerald, or blue-gray. Its shores sometimes witness a phenomenon known as the Buddha's light in the sea of clouds. During this phenomenon, a glowing circle with a rainbow halo forms, within which one can see the reflection of their own silhouette. For several decades, Canis Lake has also been associated with a mystical story about a monster said to inhabit its waters. The first reports of the lake monster emerged in 1980. Witnesses then spotted a giant shadow beneath the water, creating large waves. After this incident, numerous reports of encounters with the monster surfaced. According to descriptions, its body length is around 30 meters, and it resembles the Loch Ness Monster. Some people believe that a cryptid truly inhabits the depths of Canis, but scientists suggest that what people are actually seeing are schools of giant trout. Hanglong Cave, located near the city of Zhangjiajie in Hunan, is a giant naturally formed karst cave with multiple chambers connected by an underground river. This site is one of the most popular attractions in Hunan province, visited by more than 1 million tourists annually. In China, this cave is called Huanglongdong, and among tourists, it is better known as the Yellow Dragon Cave. The cave covers an area of 48 hectares, stretches for 15 kilometers, and stands 140 meters tall. Scientists believe that the secret of the cave's incredible size lies in water slowly dripping from the ceiling, gradually dissolving the limestone. However, the locals have a different explanation for this phenomenon. They believe that long ago, deities once lived here. They blessed their temporary dwelling, and now the cave is endowed with supernatural energy capable of improving the lives of everyone who visits it. Inside the cave, there are two branches, one called longevity and the other happiness. Tourists are invited to choose one of these paths. Selecting the first promises a long, disease-free life, while the second brings a happy family life. Nowadays, the cave has a somewhat futuristic appearance. Inside, there are many stalactites of various sizes, illuminated with lights of different colors. Most people enjoy being in the cave and riding along the underground river by boat, but some tourists report feeling a strange unease and even fear. This could be related to claustrophobia, but according to local legends, such feelings are experienced by those who can sense the presence of spirits that still dwell inside Hanglong. The underground city in Beijing, also known as the Great Underground Wall, is an enormous network of bomb shelters located directly beneath the center of China's capital. Once an important strategic facility, it is now a popular tourist attraction. The history of the underground city began in the late 1950s when relations between the Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China started to deteriorate. The Chinese government feared a nuclear strike, so even then, discussions began about a large-scale project to build a massive bomb shelter. In 1969, after the border conflict at Lake Damansky, Chairman Mao Zedong ordered the construction of a shelter in Beijing that would save the lives of all the residents of China's capital in the event of a nuclear war. Construction of the facility took 10 years and involved more than 300,000 people. Since Beijing's population at the time was over 6 million people who needed to be protected in the event of war, the complex had to be fantastically large. Ultimately, the underground city included about 20,000 bomb shelters connected by tunnels, with a total length of over 30 kilometers. It is worth noting that the complex turned out to be very much like a real city. Inside, there were restaurants, theaters, schools, hospitals, and much more. All the bomb shelters were equipped with ventilation systems and were capable of withstanding any kind of military attack. Since the war never occurred, in the 1980s, the tunnels were repurposed into low-cost commercial and residential spaces. About 1 million people settled in the underground city. However, in 2010, Chinese authorities banned illegal settlement in the underground city. Despite intensified efforts to combat illegal living, people continue to reside in the bomb shelters. Abandoned amusement parks attract a large number of tourists. These places combine elements that seemingly shouldn't go together: fairy tale childhood and post-apocalypse. China also has its own abandoned park, which could have become an excellent alternative to the American Disneyland. This site, called Wonderland, is located in the village of Chenzhuang, 30 kilometers from Beijing. Originally, it was planned that this amusement park would become the largest in all of Asia, but unfortunately this did not happen. Now, instead of happy children with their parents, the unfinished rides are visited by enthusiasts of abandoned places. The main investor of Wonderland was the Chinese investment company Rainwood Group. Experts estimate that the project cost the company $100 million. Investors had high hopes for the park and carried out construction work at an accelerated pace. However, in 1998, when the park was nearly completed, the project was halted and then completely shut down due to disagreements over land planning. Since then, Wonderland has remained an unfinished project, and nearby farmers began to cultivate land, which has partially taken over the park's territory. Thus, the fairy tale castles and rides are now surrounded by cornfields, adding even more eeriness to the landscape. It might seem that things couldn't get worse, but now the park looks even more terrifying because, in 2013, it was decided to demolish the structure. However, this work was once again left unfinished. Some of the rides and fairy tale structures were indeed demolished, but some remain in place. Today, the Wonderland amusement park impresses with its desolation and hopelessness. Against the backdrop of fairy tale towers and rides, you can see farmers working in the fields without any machinery. It looks quite surreal. Additionally, there are many signs around the park warning of possible toxic substances in the soil. Where could these toxins have come from? It is unknown, but perhaps the signs were put up to deter as many tourists as possible from visiting this abandoned site. Abandoned cities attract thrill seekers, often due to the mysterious stories associated with them. In China, there are many areas and settlements that have been abandoned for various reasons. One such place is a city located on the hills near Shenyang in the northeastern part of the country. This city was supposed to be inhabited by very wealthy people, but it turned out to be completely empty. Construction of the settlement began in 2010. According to the project plan, it was supposed to consist of 260 luxurious houses. However, 2 years later, the construction was halted, and now the area is filled with partially unfinished houses that look as if an apocalypse has occurred there. People from nearby farms decided to make use of the abandoned land, and now they use it as fields and for grazing livestock. As a result, you can encounter quite a few cows wandering the streets of this city. Local farmers have long been asking the authorities to decide what should be done with this unfinished city. In their opinion, the settlement should either be demolished or completed so that people can move into the houses. Their desire stems from the fact that terrifying screams can often be heard coming from the abandoned houses. These screams sound very eerie, and the source remains a mystery. The farmers believe that it could be ghosts or evil spirits that have chosen the empty houses as their dwelling place. These screams are especially common at night. According to the farmers, they are impossible to ignore, as they seem to penetrate into the dreams of sleeping people and wake them up. Of course, in a city where no one has ever lived, there are unlikely to be ghosts, as there is no origin for them. But they could be spirits or other mystical beings. The news of this anomaly quickly spread among enthusiasts of abandoned places and paranormal phenomena, making the city quite popular within certain circles. Among those who have visited the place, some have indeed heard the eerie screams, while others have not heard anything. So to this day, it remains a mystery whether strange creatures truly inhabit the unfinished city of the rich or not. In the Chongqing municipality, on the northern bank of the Yangtze River, lies the unusual ghost city of Fungu. This place is also known as the City of the King of Hell. It is believed that good spirits go to heaven, while evil ones end up in Fungu. Fungu used to serve as a cemetery. There you can find many temples and mausoleums, as well as the buildings of an ancient city. After the construction of the Three Gorges Dam, Fungu was flooded, but the part located on a hill remained untouched. It is here that many tourists from all over the world come to immerse themselves in the atmosphere of Chinese philosophy about the afterlife. According to legend, in the 2nd century BC, 2 people named Yin and Wang arrived in Fungu. First, they became Taoist hermits and then found the path to immortality. Interestingly, when you pronounce their names together, it forms the word Yin Wang, which can be translated as King of Hell. Since then, the Chinese have believed that the king of the underworld lives in this place, and the city itself has been called the dwelling place of evil spirits. Within Fungu, there are statues and other artistic objects depicting ghosts and demons, and the names of most attractions are related to the afterlife. The city also features a haunted house decorated with luminescent paint. But the main attraction of Fungu is the giant sculpture of the King of Hell's face, 138 meters tall and 217 meters wide. This piece of art has entered the Guinness Book of World Records as the largest sculpture carved into a cliff. The Luyue Bridge, which spans the Yongding River on the southwestern outskirts of Beijing, is an ancient 10-arch bridge with a rich history. The bridge's construction began in the 12th century. In 1125, a war broke out between the Luyue State, formed by the Khitan tribes, and the Jurchen tribes, led by Wanyan Wukimai, who had rebelled against them. The rebels were victorious, and the ruler of Luyue was captured. As a result, the city of Nanjing was rebuilt and renamed Zhongdu. 54 years after these events, it was decided to build a stone bridge across the river, and its construction took 3 years. The bridge turned out to be magnificent, built from granite blocks and adorned with numerous lion statues. Interestingly, even Marco Polo was impressed by the beauty of the Luyue Bridge, which is why the bridge is sometimes also called the Marco Polo Bridge. This bridge helped people cross the river for several centuries, and it likely wouldn't have gained modern fame if not for the events that took place there. The Luguqiao incident, also known as the Marco Polo Bridge incident, began on July 7, 1937, and lasted for 3 days. On that day, a skirmish occurred between soldiers of the Japanese garrison army and a company of Chinese troops guarding an area near the bridge. This incident served as the trigger for the Second Sino-Japanese War. Starting in late June 1937, Japanese troops conducted exercises near the Luyue Bridge. During this time, Chinese forces kept watch to prevent a surprise attack. It seemed that nothing would happen, but early on July 7th, Japanese commanders reported the disappearance of one of their soldiers. According to them, he had been captured by the Chinese army. It remains unknown to this day whether the soldier was truly captured or if the situation was merely a provocation. Nevertheless, Japan reacted sharply to the report and demanded permission from China to enter the city. Naturally, the Chinese refused. The next day, a battle erupted on the bridge, temporarily halted for negotiations. However, the negotiations ultimately led to Beijing being left defenseless, and in August of that year, Japanese troops invaded the city. There were many casualties during this incident on both the Japanese and Chinese sides. Residents of houses near the bridge claim that sometimes they hear terrifying screams and even see the silhouettes of soldiers. They believe that many ghosts haunt the area and avoid going to the bridge after sunset. Whether this is true remains unknown, but such paranormal phenomena are quite common worldwide in places where wars have been fought. The Longmen Caves are a giant complex of Buddhist cave temples carved into cliffs. This masterpiece of Chinese architecture is located in Henan Province in the city of Luoyang. Longmen includes 2,345 grottos with 43 temples, containing around 2,800 inscriptions and more than 100,000 different religious sculptures. Work on this complex began in 493 AD during the Northern Wei dynasty and continued for another 200 years. A total of 6 imperial dynasties participated in the construction of this enormous Buddhist complex. When studying the sculptures in detail, one can observe how the artisans' styles evolved over time. During the Northern Wei period, simpler sculptures were created, whereas during the Tang dynasty, the sculptures became incredibly detailed. The oldest of all the caves with Northern Wei carvings is the Guiyang Cave, or the Cave of the Old Sun. Inside, there is a very large image of Buddha Shakyamuni, flanked by bodhisattvas on either side, along with about 800 inscriptions. Fengxian is the largest of all the caves carved into the Western Hill. The images inside it date back to the Tang dynasty, or the 7th century AD. Inside the cave is a sanctuary adorned with the largest Buddha statue in the complex. The sculpture stands over 17 meters tall. Tourists frequently visit the Longmen grottos, and it is no surprise. Being on the grounds of the complex feels like traveling back more than 1,500 years. The numerous sculptures, from the smallest, no more than 3 centimeters in size, to the largest, demonstrate how important religion was to the Chinese emperors. Some of the images look quite eerie, and it's not just because they depict evil spirits, but also because some of them were partially destroyed, first in the 9th century and later in the late 19th century. Despite all the challenges, the Longmen grottos have preserved their beauty and are considered one of the most visited cultural sites in China. In 2000, this architectural monument was included in the UNESCO World Heritage List. And that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Your engagement is the best reward for me. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Goodbye.